What's up, everybody? We are back in action. College football. It's not upon us. It's been here for quite a while. It's week 10 already. I cannot believe it. Soon we'll be talking bowl season, but you know what? We're in the thick of the conference championship races. We're in the thick of the national championship hunt, the playoff hunt. We got a big time slate of games. We're going to break down all the marquee games. This is episode 1 of Betting You of the Week. You guys know the drill if you're loyal listeners. This is all the big time games. Then we're going to get egregious later in the week on the Odd Chopper channel. That's why we want you here. Like, subscribe. Welcome. I'm Ben Rasa. Matt Gajewski is with me. How are you feeling, sir? I said to you, last thing I said before I click record, you must be feeling good because Maction officially started. I know you love some Maction.
I do love Maction. I think kind of infamous at this time of year for loving Maction so much. It's my favorite conference. The Sun Belt has actually given it a run for its money of late. But yeah, you guys know me. I like the games that are deep in the weeds. So I'm really excited for this week. We're coming off another solid one last week. I finished with a 25-10 record. Somehow this just unbelievable Sun run continues. It's by far the best season of my life. We'll have a bad week coming at some point this year. It's just how college football goes. But happy that some of the greasy games have been really beneficial to people. I know we talk about takeaways. A lot of them came in that segment. Some really big games last week. Miami, Ohio got it done on their backup quarterback. North Texas almost won the game. You were the good luck charm for UMass live in person against Army. That under came through. And UMass, what a win, buddy.
Insane. Yeah, I was there in person. And I, unlike you, I was not sun running. I was coming off 2 bad weeks, and I had a really good week of college football as well. Western Michigan, which might have been my favorite game, that was a kill spot early in that day. Oregon against Utah, I really like that spot. And then Oregon State, I continue to have the right vibe of that team. My biggest disappointment really was Marshall. They no-showed against Coastal. You can't win them all, obviously, but that was a big disappointment. I thought they'd play a lot better.
Yeah, they had some guys that didn't play, which were unexpected. But yes, that was a bit unexpected. Coastal on their backup quarterback looks
That guy
like,
was good.
yeah, he's not bad. Apparently, he's made some strides. But it looks like Grayson McCall is going to be out for the year, which is really, really sad. Did you have any other major takeaways?
No, not really. I think we knew this, that USC is not a serious team. That defense is a joke. It really is just an absolute joke. Penn State was sleepwalking. Um, Ohio State, nothing really. I didn't think it was a. Oh, and Clemson has mailed it in. I think we now see that Clemson is absolutely cooked.
I feel really bad for that Clemson team. Their defense is so good, and they're just wasting the careers of these players. I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit. I can't remember if they're on our sheet today. They are. They play Notre Dame. That's right. But yeah, as far as like playoff race stuff goes, I don't think too much was decided last week. In my notes, I just had nothing for the SEC. That's all decided this week with the big games we'll talk about. Nothing in the Big Ten. That's not going to be decided until those 3 start playing each other more, Michigan, Ohio State. The big question with the Big Ten is, do we get 2 playoff teams in? And I think that's largely what we've seen the last couple of years with other conferences cannibalizing each other. ACC, Florida State controls their own destiny. Pac-12, Washington controls their own destiny, but I think they lose to Oregon in a rematch. I mean, they're going to be underdogs to Oregon when they do rematch, assuming they don't get tripped up along the way. And I think the Big 12's out unless there's just pure cannibalization. But the biggest question, I think, is, Oregon upsets Washington in the Pac-12 title game, theoretically. Do they get in over a one-loss Big Ten team that just, lost in the Big Ten championship or something? What do you think?
Yeah, that's where it gets really tricky because the Big Ten, you're also going to have, you could have a Big Ten team that maybe doesn't even make it to the championship game with 1 loss. That always is a bizarre situation. Like, what if Michigan and Ohio State are undefeated? Michigan wins it in a very close game. Does Ohio State get some talk about the playoff?
Right. So those teams are going to play each other twice, more than likely, unless Penn State has some resurrection, which doesn't seem likely at this point. But I mean, you get Ohio State winning in the regular season, Michigan winning in the title game. You have a tough situation with both those teams being very good. And I don't think they're leaving out a 1-loss Big Ten team. So I think Oregon, Washington, unless they're undefeated, they're kind of hoping that whoever wins that game wins twice.
gonna be fascinating. We'll dig into it. I have not taken any positions on any of this stuff besides what I have in the preseason. But let's get to these games because we got a lot to get to, and we got some good ones. And we start with obviously a very legitimate game, and we're gonna dive in. And it's been one of our favorite teams all year. It's the Missouri Tigers. This is if you're gonna make a statement, this is the time to make it. You're going down to Athens to take on Georgia. You're 2-touchdown underdog and then some. Too much, too little? Can Missouri hang with Georgia?
I was thinking about this all last week in anticipation, and I was likely going to place a wager on Missouri either way. And I don't typically do this, bet with my heart. My heart is a dark, cold place, but Missouri has warmed it a little bit. But then the spread came out, and I couldn't believe that they opened as 3-score underdogs. I was only able to get a plus 16, but I think that's still a pretty decent number against Georgia. And a lot of it comes down to injuries. Georgia still hasn't been fully healthy. Everybody knows about Brock Bowers, but they didn't have Amarius Mims again last week. He tried to warm up, but he didn't end up playing. Against Florida, that doesn't really matter too much, but now you're facing the most difficult team you'll play all year in Missouri. So I don't know what Amarius Mims' status is. They didn't have one of their safeties, Dan Jackson. He's a rotational safety, but it's still noteworthy. There are injuries to this Georgia team, and I don't think that's a positive against Missouri, who's coming off a bye, pretty healthy. They've only been missing Chad Bailey. I don't know if he's going to play. He's one of their stud linebackers. Luckily, they got back Enos Rakestraw, their other corner, to pair with Abrams Drain. Georgia's just been throwing the ball over the top of people. They do have an awesome offense. Losing Bowers hurts, but like we thought would happen, they kind of just morphed. Ladd McConkey had the biggest game of his season so far. You still have Rosemead Jackson, Dominic Lovett, the premier Missouri transfer. But that works right into the strength of Missouri's defense, where they're excellent in the secondary with Rakestraw, Abrams, Drain. I think you could maybe run on them, but Georgia's run game hasn't really gotten going at all this year. They've had a ton of injuries. Milton's been banged up. Roderick Robinson. DeJuan Edwards has been okay. But then Missouri's offense has just been lethal, unstoppable. They're 12th in offensive efficiency, amazing offensive line, top 20 in both pass blocking and run blocking, only a 17% pressure rate. Brady Cook has been amazing. He has 20 big-time throws, only 7 turnover-worthy plays. I think the pick 6 that cost us the cover against LSU probably stands out vividly in people's minds. That's a rarity for Brady Cook. He has a 69.5% completion, 9.3 yards per attempt. The bye is kind of important for Missouri. Normally, I don't look too much into this, but Cody Schrader had been questionable in like 3 straight games. Luther Burden hadn't been practicing. He'd been gutting through injuries. Brady Cook himself had gotten banged up at times, so I think this is a timely bye for them, whereas Georgia had to play last week. Now, Missouri is the road team that is at least noteworthy here. It's a tough road spot, but I still think it's a ton of points. For a Georgia team that hasn't really impressed me, they played down to competition. They have one of the worst cover rates in the country versus a Missouri team that I really like. Are you hesitant, or are you back to Missouri?
Maybe a little of both. I'm certainly not betting Georgia north of 2 touchdowns. That's not going to happen. I don't want to read too much into it. Again, it's a neutral site in Jacksonville. I thought Florida had scenarios to give Georgia a game that
I
didn't
forgot
really,
about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was. I thought Florida would give them more trouble last week, and now Georgia comes home. Yeah, I get it. It is coming down. There are a couple 16s out there. I really do. You've been, and I've been right there with you. Brady Cook is very legitimate. We'll talk about Daniels in a second, but he's up there for best quarterbacks in this conference. They're a good team. Pace-wise, tempo-wise, total-wise, do you have any thoughts in this game of maybe how it looks? It's sitting at 55.5.
Yeah, you're just past that key number, 55. If it was at 55 itself, I would have more interest in an over here because I really respect this Missouri offense and think they score on Georgia's defense. And Georgia's been scoring on everybody.
Yeah.
To your point on the Florida game, that should have been closer than it was, but man, Florida did some really dumb stuff. Did you see that like 4th down where they did the direct snap to the running back?
Sounds like something they would call.
Okay, yeah. Instead of running like a QB sneak or something, they run a direct snap to a running back who the play is immediately blown up. And then he tries to like drop back like he's going to pass and everybody's run blocking. And then, I mean, Graham Mertz had a strip sack fumble situation where he wasn't even really touched, except the defender got his hand directly on the ball. So some weird stuff there. But anyway, yeah, if I was taking something with the total, it would be the over. Don't love that it just passed that key number 55. I think every point matters here.
No doubt. A great game. Again, a couple of the biggest games on the slate are in the SEC. The other one is in Tuscaloosa. LSU and Alabama, 3-point spread, 60.5-point total. LSU, they've taken their L's this year, but that team scores like banshees. Extreme offense. Alabama is still quietly, they're winning the games they need to, but this is the spot. Is LSU the rightful underdog? Should they be the favorite? What do you anticipate here?
I do think they should be the underdog, but I don't know if it should be outside 3. You're seeing this bounce a little bit. I took +4. I'm comfortable with that number, just having expected some line movement. But yeah, Bama controls their own destiny, man. They don't have a conference loss. If they make it to the championship and beat Georgia, which, I mean, they have to do a ton of things to have that happen, but they're still getting into the playoff if that happens. Whoever wins the SEC, no matter, I mean, you could put 8-loss Vandy in the conference title game. If they win, they're going to the playoff. That's just how it goes. But anyway, in this spot, LSU does have some stuff to overcome for as good as their offense is, and it's amazing. Their defense is horrible. They have just been a revolving door in the secondary. They have a ton of injuries. Deuce Chestnut hasn't been with the team, the premier Syracuse transfer. They just lost Mekhi Wingo to surgery, one of their stud D tackles. Zy Alexander got hurt. Denver Harris isn't playing right now. Not sure what his status with the team is. A couple of these guys are high-profile transfers that just aren't happy with the way Brian Kelly's treating them. And, I mean, they've sucked, so it kind of goes both ways. On offense, Emory Jones, one of their tackles, didn't play last game. He's expected back, but I don't think that matters. LSU was like 7 elite-graded offensive linemen. But the injuries on defense are concerning because, as we've noted multiple times, Jalen Milroe is playing really well this season. He's averaging 10.7 yards per attempt, 13 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's taking care of the ball, 64.5% completion. He just has a couple like boneheaded throws a game, which look really bad. Like the optics on those throws are terrible. But when you dive into the metrics, you're like, damn, this guy's really good and he has explosive pass catchers. And that's definitely going to be a problem for LSU secondary because he's now diced up, I mean, like Tennessee, Arkansas, A&M, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Texas. This is an incredibly difficult strength of schedule. And they've actually gotten some things together on the offensive line, especially against Tennessee, who was supposed to have this massive mismatch. They only generated 4 pressures all game against Bama. So I don't know if this is a turning of the corner for them or what, but it's at least noteworthy. They started to get some things together. As far as LSU, love their offense, think they score here, but I'm really worried about this defense on the other side. If I didn't get this line movement, I don't think I'd play this game. I'm not going to buy out of it because I did get some line value, but if you're betting this, it's a lean towards LSU, but probably not towards the top of the card. You won't hear me talking about this during the best bets.
Great game in life. I don't think it's the best betting game. My favorite play is actually the over 60.5. I think that this game could get out of control. We saw this with Ole Miss and LSU. I think it could mirror that game where it's like last team with the ball has a chance. Explosive plays on both sides of the ball offensively. If I had to take a side, I would probably take Alabama at -3, but not sure I'm going to ever bet that. I think over is my favorite play here.
I'm fine with over. Both teams are about average in pace, but extremely explosive.
Yeah, super, super explosive.
Did you bet it yet?
The over, I have not. I have not bet anything in this game.
Okay. I bet LSU early on, just expecting line movement. But that over is interesting.
Yeah, I've seen the chunk plays, obviously, like Alabama's passing attack. It's not thinking that, they can get you over the top. They're at home. LSU's gonna score. Like LSU scores on everybody.
Yes.
So it's a very good real life game. Just not my favorite for the betting streets. Let's keep it going. Kansas State and Texas. This is a fascinating game. One I'm really excited to talk about. 4.5-point spread, 51-point total. So we could start with Texas. I didn't think they would be tested. I don't think you thought they would be tested. Do you have any takeaways from what we saw with the non-Quinn Ewers Longhorn attack.
It wasn't great at times. I mean, Malik Murphy had some really bad passes, but he also played well enough to get the win over a corpse of a BYU team. And I think that's going to be the case in most of these games where you're throwing to Worley, Sanders, A.D. Mitchell. What do you really have to do to win games? It's kind of like McCord with Ohio State throwing to Ibuka and Marvin Harrison. I have a lot of questions on how good McCord actually is, but he is the best receivers in the country. Texas isn't too far away from that. He finished with a 60.5% completion, 6.5 yards per attempt. He doesn't run, so complete pocket passer. Sark loves these kind of quarterbacks. Luckily, he's playing behind a good offensive line. They're 9th in pass blocking. Good run game with Jonathan Brooks to fall back on. So, yeah, it's kind of what I expected. Nothing spectacular, middling efficiency metrics to below average, but they can still get wins on the back of their elite skill players. Is that what you saw, or did I miss anything?
No, I truth be told, I didn't watch the game. I looked at the box, I looked at that, and I don't think BYU is overly indicative of anything. That's my biggest problem. Like, this is a 4.5 point spread. Now, I think part of that's stemming from Kansas State rolled last week. Super fatality, just destroyed Houston. Now they're on the road. I kind of want to venture into the Texas waters here, I think.
I was thinking about that too. Texas has a great defense.
They do. Like, they're not going to be getting mopped up by Kansas State at home.
Well, Kansas State has just this incredible run of just demolishing backup quarterbacks too. And I hate when people do this and they don't evaluate the talent of the backup quarterback. So they just killed Houston. Like Donovan Smith was pulled in the third quarter. Houston's a weaker team in the Big 12. TCU was on Josh Hoover. The early returns on Josh Hoover look downright horrifyingly bad. That team is a corpse without Chandler Morris. Texas Tech was on Jake Strong. Don't look much better for him. Like, they need Barrett and Morton back. They played Timmy McClain, who I think is a better backup. John Rice Plumlee. I mean, he turns the ball over so much. Maybe you could argue the offense is better with Timmy McClain, but still, that's 3 situations with just pure backup quarterbacks. Another where they got out to such a lead that you were facing one. I mean, otherwise, they lost to Missouri rightfully, lost to Oklahoma State rightfully. There are questions with Kansas State. All their premier beatdown wins are against backup quarterbacks except for Houston. So I don't know what to do with this. The offense, it's changing a lot. They continue to use Avery Johnson and Will Howard. Will Howard played most of last game, and he played extremely well. But Ben Sano was injured. He only played a limited amount of snaps. I think that makes sense. You're killing Houston. Why would you have him play the whole time? They've been banged up at receiver. Keegan Johnson and RJ Garcia have been hurt. Luckily, Jace Brown has been awesome in their place. But then on defense, Daniel Green and Austin Newsome, 2 linebackers, haven't been playing a ton. They haven't faced an offense that can exploit their defense. Early in the year, this team was getting gashed by Missouri. Backup Timmy McClain got them. I mean, I still have questions about the defense. They lost 2 NFL corners, an NFL edge rusher. What do good offenses do against this team? I would love it if Quinn Ewers was playing. I don't know if Malik Murphy's, the kind of guy to exploit this. Kansas State's somehow facing another backup quarterback. But yeah, I mean, maybe Texas just leans on their run game and their strong defense. It's not like the pass game is the only thing they do well. Whereas there's a lot of questions with Kansas State. I still haven't bet it. I'm very hesitant with all of the weird noise in this game. But it sounds like you're a little more interested in Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if I can find the 4 and they're out there, 4 at -110. I am interested. I'm interested in under 51 as well. I think that Kansas State might really struggle to score. I don't think it'll be an up-tempo game. Texas will be even more content to methodically move the ball and just no turnovers, nothing stupid. Yeah, I mean, this is insane because I mean, I don't not that this is actionable. I'm just thinking against Missouri. I watched that game from start to finish. Brady Cook got hurt in that game. Now
Yes,
he's
he
got
did.
yeah, like Kansas State is just living well. So they have faced a string of not fully healthy quarterbacks for the year. I just think that Texas talent trumps it all. You're already paying for the change. Maybe we'll see Arch. Who knows? I'll lay the points with. I'll lay 4 with Texas here.
I think I'm going to join you. Going to dive in a little bit after this, but
Yeah.
that's the side I lean to as well.
All right, we're going out west, but before we do, we already mentioned a couple games, and we got a plenty more. As always, man, how the hell am I going to bet all these? So many games, so many options, and wait till college basketball. That is why when books say, "Hey, you want some money?" listen up. I got 6 states for you. If you're in one of these 6 states, I've got $150 for you. States. Drum roll, please. New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado, and Kentucky. If I didn't say your state, fast forward to Washington and USC. But if I did, come collect your 150 courtesy of Bet365. It's right here. Bet 5, get 150 with the link below. What do? You take 2 minutes. You sign up. Put in $10 or more. Take $5 and bet it on your favorite college football game. It doesn't matter because if you win that bet, you're getting 150 in bonus bets. If you lose that bet, you're getting 150 in bonus bets. That's the beauty of this offer. It is there for you. It is available, and it's money that you can use for your bankroll. We've seen so many stories of people saying, I got that 150 and I ran it up, and now I'm able to bet all these different spots. I have money for parlays if I want to take those shots. Take advantage of this offer from Bet365, and you get Bet365 the book, which is a fantastic book. It's only available in those states, of course. Got to be 21 plus, 18 in Kentucky. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. But make sure to get that 150 in bonus bets. Take 2 minutes out of your day if you're in those 6 states. A great offer and still available right now. We're going out west to Washington and USC. Weird game. 3.5-point spread. When I look at it on the surface, I'm like, this is just dumb. What a trap. But is it a trap? What are we doing here?
There's a lot of injuries, and USC has taken money. I want to bet Washington, but I'm not. I don't really think there's any incentive to do it right now.
Okay.
Both these teams are really hurt in their secondaries. So, I mean, if you weren't already expecting 100 points to be scored in this game, there's a really good chance it does. A number of the injuries for Washington, I'll kind of just run through them. Safety, Asa Turner hasn't played the last couple games. Corner Devon Banks has been out. Safety, Cameron Fabakulanan has been day-to-day. Tuli Latuli Gasanoa, their best defensive tackle. He suited up last game, but he was only there for emergency. That's probably in anticipation of this game. Vince Nunley, another one of their safeties, hasn't been playing. Their coach came out and said that's not an injury situation, so I don't know if he's suspended or just away for the team. But they're decimated on defense, just decimated, and they haven't faced an offense really that can exploit this. They beat Oregon, and then a lot of these injuries have occurred in the last 2 games against Arizona State and Stanford, 2 games that were closer than the spread indicated. They also were playing with Michael Penix sick. That's at least noteworthy. Jalen McMillan, he's been trying to suit up and then getting re-injured every time he steps on the field. He was listed as day-to-day. I'll believe it when I see it with him. Jeremy Bernard, he played through an injury too, gutted it out. That's positive because he got hurt in their second most recent game. But still, Giles Jackson, he's been injured. They might redshirt him allegedly, so receivers kind of a mess outside of O'Dunes and Jalen Polk. The defense is definitely a mess. No idea what players will return, who they might be. But that's the same case with USC. I mean, they're so banged up on defense too. Sayir Wright, one of their corners, missed their last game. Jacoby Covington missed their last game. Another corner, Max Williams, a safety, missed. Jalen Smith, the corner that was replacing some of those guys, immediately went to the medical tent. They also have a terrible defensive coordinator, and it's not just the play they put on the field. They had Eric Gentry behind Mason Cobb and Tackett Curtis at linebacker all season long. To give Eric Gentry some reps last game, and the guy looks amazing. Like, what are they looking at in practice? It's not just that. Zion Branch went down, another safety. Marshawn Lloyd also got banged up in the game. They're starting running back. I mean, there's just injuries galore. I still prefer Washington. USC has played down to their competition. Like, this team lost to Utah. This team beat Cal by 1 point. They lost to Notre Dame, 2-point game against Arizona. I mean, 7-point game against Colorado. This team is horrible, especially on defense. I'm probably going to play Washington, but I'm going to wait, see where the line ends up. USC taking money. And if you get any of these Washington defenders back, I think you're essentially playing with free money at this point.
I'm not betting USC. If Washington, if more threes pop up, and I think we're going to get that, I'm fine with laying it. USC is just terrible. 76.5. It would be over for me, but I'm not exactly running to the window to bet it.
Yeah, it's too high for me. I think this USC team is quitting.
Yeah, no, they again, lifeless last week. I don't even want to spend any more time with them. I want to go back to the SEC. Texas A&M and Ole Miss. This is a really good game. I know LSU and Alabama. I get it, but Ole Miss is fantastic, and A&M has some things working. It's only a 3-point spread down in Oxford. What do you make of this? Is there a spot that you're targeting?
Yeah, sneaky game in the West. I think people rightfully have identified LSU and Alabama as that premier game, but Ole Miss only has one loss. They're right there. Depending on what happens in that Bama game, we might have a little logjam in the West that will be decided later on. I like Ole Miss in this spot, minus the 3. Another game you're not incentivized to bet right now, with Texas A&M taking money. But I think both these teams are power rated pretty evenly. You look on offense, A&M's 26th overall, Ole Miss is 13th. I think there is a decided advantage on the offensive line. Texas A&M is 122nd in pass blocking, whereas Ole Miss is 64th, and they're good on run blocking too. On defense, it's a slight edge Texas A&M's direction, but not drastically. They're 22nd in overall defense. Ole Miss is 31st, and quietly one of the better defenses in the country. But when we look at mismatches, Texas A&M with that bad offensive line, I think there's actually an edge towards Ole Miss in the pass rush department. They're 15th in rushing the passer against that 122nd ranked O-line. I think that's going to be a disaster for Max Johnson. A lot of people try to point out like Texas A&M's advantage pass rushing. They're 13th, only 2 spots better than Ole Miss, but they're facing a tough offensive line, an experienced offensive line. I do not think they get home as much. And in coverage, these teams are almost dead even. So I think we have pretty small micro advantages towards Ole Miss, especially on defense. Max Johnson is a turnover factory. He already has 9 turnover-worthy plays this year. They've only resulted in 4 interceptions. He has fumbled a couple times, but negative regression due here. I don't know, man. As far as injuries go, Le'Veon Moss sat out last week. Noah Thomas got hurt in the game. They've had a couple guys injured on defense. Tyreek Chappelle is the main one, their corner. He left last week's game. Ole Miss is pretty healthy overall. The only real departure we saw, I guess, player that missed was Hasheem Young, and that was a suspension. So he should be back here. Zachary Franklin didn't play, but I just think he's the wide receiver 4 at this point. Jordan Watkins is playing with a cast on his hand at receiver, which is kind of funny, but he's somehow been productive through it. It kind of reminds me like Keaton Thompson for Virginia last year. He played the whole season with a cast on his hand and had like 100 catches. So that's not the end-all, be-all. But yeah, Ole Miss is really healthy. Texas A&M at least has a couple injuries here. I also like the quarterback way more with Ole Miss. Dart, 9.7 yards per attempt, can run, 13 big-time throws, 6 turnover-worthy plays. Behind that good offensive line and strong defense, I think it's too narrow of a spread. But Texas A&M taking money, I'll happily wait.
Yeah, I'm a big Texas A&M guy too. I think they're a really good team. I just don't know if they have, particularly now offensively, if they can stack up on the road against teams like this. Ole Miss is really, really good. This is a team that beat LSU. This is a team at home. They also have a coaching advantage because I don't trust anything coming out of Texas A&M. Not a fan of Jimbo. 3 points. I mean, there's still some -110s. FanDuel's got 3 at -110. Ole Miss or pass, under or pass. I think that Texas A&M can slow it down. I do respect that defensive front. Ole Miss is going to gut it out. I think they remain in the hunt for everything that they want with a win here. If this was in College Station, we'd be talking about a different story and a different spread, but it's not. Give me the Rebs. I will take Ole Miss and I will lay the points.
Yeah, I think that Texas A&M defense has also shown cracks against good quarterbacks. You know, they look awesome against Rattler, who's down like his top 3 receivers and there's no offensive lineman. They look great against Joe Milton, but Jalen Milroe dices him up for 300 yards. Van Dyke killed him. They played Auburn and Arkansas in between those teams that can't throw. There's a chance this defense isn't as good as we think it is.
I'm a little surprised, honestly, at this line. I really am. But yeah, count me in. And you mentioned you don't need to really jump on this. It's moving the other way a little bit. So I don't know if it's going to get to 2.5. I'm fine with 3, but if you want to wait, yeah. Now, okay. I mean, this obviously had to be in there, no doubt, because it is a big game. This is going to be all you, though. I don't want to talk about Clemson. I don't want to think about Clemson. I don't want to deal with Clemson. It's a 3-point spread in Death Valley. There's no chance that I will bet a single dollar on Clemson for the rest of the year. But am I going to bet against them here? That is the question I'm asking you.
What about an under? Could you be convinced of an under?
45? What number are you looking for?
I took 46. I think 45 is completely fine.
Okay. Okay. Talk to me.
Well, first and foremost, we know Clemson can't score.
No, that's correct.
So this team, man, I mean, where to start? They're hurt. Cole Turner, one of their receivers, has been out for the year. Antonio Williams, the recent quote after he allegedly was going to return is that he's out and he won't be back anytime soon. Walker Parks hasn't been playing on the offensive line. Mitchell Mays missed their last game, one of their guards. They also have Will Shipley in concussion protocol, their best running back and probably their best offensive player because Cade Klubnik is incompetent. He has a 6.5 yards per attempt, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's not even indicative of how bad he's been. 7 big-time throws, 13 turnover-worthy plays. This guy should have more interceptions, and he's already been careless with the ball. Offensive line has not been good, 25% pressure rate. You're facing an elite Notre Dame defense, 9th in total defensive efficiency, 10th in pass rush. They're top 10 in every major metric, run defense, coverage, you name it. There's no way Clemson scores. Like, just for fun here, let's look at the NC State game that we just saw, because this NC State defense has been carved up by everybody, and somehow Cade Klubnik couldn't do it. So here's what NC State has allowed so far this year. They allowed 286 yards to Sam Hartman, 11.9 yards per attempt. They allowed 8.2 yards per attempt to Jack Plummer, 286 yards. Marshall's Cam Fancher threw for 315 yards. Duke's backup Henry Bellin only threw for 107 yards. Well, might look bad on paper. Turns out he only threw the ball about 12 times. He was at 9 yards per attempt. And then somehow Cade Klubnik stumbles his way onto this field and throws for 5.3 yards per attempt against maybe the worst secondary in the conference. Like, they're up there with Virginia, this NC State team. What the hell is Dabo doing out there with this quarterback? I mean, I don't know. Cade Klubnik is a complete and utter disaster. Clemson might get shut out here. So, I mean, that's the first part of this under coming in my opinion. The offense is horrible, and you're facing Notre Dame's elite defense. But then on the other side, Notre Dame is happy to just play a vanilla game plan. I don't know if they actually want to score points on people. When you play Pitt, I mean, you look like the Kansas City Chiefs. That just is what it is. But this team is slow. They're run heavy for the most part. When they use Hartman, it's just efficiency. They haven't found any success with their receivers, a revolving door there. I mean, I think their best receiver at this point is a converted running back in Chris Tyree. Their actual best receiver, tight end Mitch Evans, tore his ACL. He's not going to play here. So, I mean, what the hell did they do at that position? Notre Dame already is really slow, run heavy, without an explosive offense. And Clemson's defense is awesome. Like, I feel really bad for these guys just wasting away behind Dabo's inept philosophies in the transfer portal, not having a competent offense. Clemson's defense is 6th. They're 1st in run defense. That's huge against Audric Estime. They're 17th against the pass. Not that it matters. Notre Dame can't throw. But, man, this Clemson defense is absolutely elite. This is a national championship defense. They're just playing behind, I don't know, a Miami, Ohio offense. So I like the under.
Yeah, I mean, you convinced me. You're drawing when Notre Dame somehow wins 48-0. We're gonna be very upset. But because Clemson, I can't believe that Klubnik is this bad. I really thought he was gonna be like everybody, super good, and it just did not pan out. Count me in because I don't want to deal with this game. You already half broke down the next game because you're talking about NC State and their pass defense. Miami is here. 4-point road favorites against the Wolfpack, 45-point total. Are we attacking NC State's defense, or is there some other actionable item here?
I'm going to attack this. I think it's maybe my favorite bet on the board, and I understand why you might be scared of this. It's Miami. Miami has played down to competition routinely. They lost to Georgia Tech on a coaching staff error. They just barely beat Virginia in their most recent game. And that was closer than it should have been too. There weren't any hidden stuff in the box score. Miami only outgained them 4.9 yards per play to 4.5. But this team beat Clemson. They lost to North Carolina in a semi-close game. All their underlying metrics are awesome. And this is still the team that just bodied Texas A&M in week 2. Efficiency-wise, I still have them 4th overall. Maybe a little inflated, but I mean, this offense is awesome. Van Dyke's coming off his worst game of the year, but still, overall body of work for Van Dyke is very good. 69.5% completion, 8.5 yards per attempt. Offensive line's been doing a phenomenal job, 17% pressure rate. So what I'll say to those of you worried about Van Dyke's recent performance in the offense overall, they're playing that NC State defense, which we just ran through everyone they've given up absurd production to. Names include Cam Fancher, Henry Bellin. This secondary is horrific. 105th in pass coverage, a terrible defense overall. That's a huge struggle against Miami's passing attack with Jacoby George and the receivers that they have. And then you're also getting healthier for Miami. Their run game projects to have everybody back. Don Chaney's supposed to be back here. Defense, I originally thought this was going to be a question. You know, you lose like Akeem Mesidor and Nigel Kelly, but holy smokes, Ruben Bain and Jafari Harvey have been so good off the edge for this team. Like guys that weren't projected to play full-time roles this year, they're the two best players on Miami's defense, and they were behind Akeem Mesidor and Nigel Kelly. This pass rush is 5th in the country. NC State has a terrible offensive line, 81st in pass blocking, 102nd in run blocking. They can't run the ball either. The total offense is 123rd. And the last thing I'll fall back on, MJ Morris has rattled off a couple wins. His efficiency metrics are identical to Brennan Armstrong, and he can't run. So I don't know what this offense is going to look like in tougher matchups. Miami's defense is certainly going to put the pressure on MJ Morris. Like if Miami hadn't just artificially been in some close games recently, I think the spread would be like 14.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's just so freaked out because Miami does really dumb things, but talent-wise, it's not even comparable. I get it. I'm joining you. You like it that much. I have a feeling we're gonna hear about this game again at the end of the show when we do our best bets. So
yeah, it's number one. You can put that down.
No more. You could put that. There's a little spoiler for you people if you've made it this far. I do always want to say again, if you're looking for anything, let us know in the comments. What games do you want for the next episode? Egregious, crazy games you never heard of. If you want to talk FCS, put it on there. Don't actually do that, but seriously, let us know what you want to see. We're here for you. Like, subscribe, get involved. All right, we're going back out to the Pac-12. We've got Oregon State and Colorado. Both teams coming off disappointing efforts, various degrees of them. Oregon State's a 13-point favorite here, but they're on the road again. Bounce back for them. Can Colorado get back to their winning ways? I don't think they're going to end up making a bowl if they can't win games like this.
Yeah, that's getting pretty dicey. And yeah, put your FCS games on. Nobody watches more FCS than my good friend Ben Rasa over here.
It's true. I caught a couple FCS games as I frequently do. We'll say there's some good teams out there.
When it comes FCS playoff time, you're gonna have to give me all the good recommendations.
Hopefully they make a waiver, even though this would be highly illegal, and they just let Sam Houston go back and play in the playoff where they probably belong, unfortunately.
That team. Luckily, they're on a bye, so we don't even have to look at them this week. As far as this Colorado game goes, they've quietly been covering spreads. Maybe they don't make a bowl, but covered last week. They were a late add to my card. And I think they might be the same thing this week. There's a couple reasons. First of all, Oregon State's taking money. I think rightfully so. They're the better team. But this team has a lot of injuries that I think could be really impactful to this particular spread, and they all come in the secondary and on defense. So they've had a couple guys out for a while. Micaiah Tong, one of their linebackers, has been out for the year. One of their starting corners, Ryan Cooper, missed their last game. Noble Thomas, another starting corner, missed their last game. And depth corner Tyrese Ivey didn't play. You also lost Isaac Hodgins, one of your defensive tackles. I don't think that's as important because Colorado can't run the ball. But being down 3 DBs potentially, and Noble Thomas has been in and out of the lineup all year. The poor guy just can't stay healthy. But if you're going to reduce the starters here, Colorado definitely can throw the ball on you. We've seen Oregon State get down in games. Washington State clipped them, and Cam Ward diced this team up. Since then, they haven't really faced a strong cast of quarterbacks. You played Utah, they can't throw. Cal was doing the quarterback roulette at this time. Mendoza wasn't a full-time starter yet. UCLA doesn't have a quarterback that can throw. And then they just lost to Arizona with Fafita playing well. So I still have a lot of questions with this pass defense. It was the question coming into the year. They lost a lot of guys to the NFL and graduation. Now the replacements are hurt. So what does this mean for Colorado? I think they can throw the ball on most teams anyway, but reducing that amount of starters, I think, is going to be big for them. They have a lot of injuries themselves. This is not going to be a surprise to anybody. Juwan Mitchell, their linebacker, he missed again. He did suit up, though. So, I mean, I think he's getting closer to playing. Marvin Ham, one of the backups, he didn't play either. Their offensive line continues to be a revolving door. And I have a lot of questions on what this offense is doing. So, like, they've had bad players, yes. But their best player, Gerard Christian Lichtenhan, their left tackle, like, by far their best player. Best PFF numbers, least amount of, like, pressures allowed, stuff like that. They benched him for Isaiah Jatta. And Isaiah Jatta came out there, looked horrible. And then he got benched and they brought in Gerard Christian Lichtenhan again. So, I mean, the offensive line's not good, but I think two things are not doing them favors. You look at their pressure rate, it's actually not terrible. It's 25%. It's below average, but it's not like among the worst in the country. One thing they're doing that is not helping, coaching staff can't evaluate who their best players are. I mean, these are very easy things to do. And then you have Shedeur Sanders dropping back, and we talk about this a lot, holding the ball forever. Start running some underneath concepts. You don't need to throw the ball downfield every single play. Shedeur's taken 39 sacks. The only thing that kind of works in his favor is Oregon State doesn't rush the passer. It's by far their weakest metric on defense. And this is kind of a coaching staff decision, too. They haven't rushed the passer well in years. So maybe you get a few extra seconds to throw the ball for Shedeur. Maybe your coaching staff puts the best lineman on the field. And then with a hurt secondary, I think you can probably actually throw the ball on this team and keep it somewhat close. Oregon State's going to score. I mean, this goes without saying. Uagalele, Martinez, they're going to score as many points as they want against Colorado's papier-mâché defense. But I actually think Colorado can keep it close with some of the matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I Oregon State, it's pretty simple for me. It doesn't only come down to this, but more often than not, they're not in Corvallis. I'm not in love with the spot. They are going to have success on the ground. I think stylistically, Colorado actually gels really good for Colorado. Like you mentioned, lack of pass rush over the top in that secondary. Colorado, that's what they want to do. If this hits 14, I'm going to bet Colorado. It's at 13 and a half.
It might.
It might. Yeah. You have 3 13.5s out there. None are juiced to the other side, but I'm going to wait and see there. I'm not going to bet Oregon State. I love Oregon State. They're probably my favorite team in the country, but I don't like the spot. It might be Colorado. It might be a pass. Keep an eye out for a 14. We stay in the Pac-12 and we go to Arizona, who isn't quietly just awesome. This team is really good. They know what they're doing. They've answered the call. The last game on the board, so it might be a bailout situation for many of us. 2.5-point spread against Chip Kelly. What do we do here in, again, the last game of the night?
This might be Arizona's toughest test all year. It's stylistic advantage versus stylistic advantage. Arizona has a bad defense. UCLA struggles on offense. UCLA's offensive line is bad, especially in pass blocking. Actually pretty good running the ball, but 98th in pass blocking. They've been a revolving door at quarterback. Ethan Garbers has actually given them good snaps, better than I thought. But they're still doing the Colin Schlee thing. He threw a pick last game. So, I mean, as good as he is running the ball, he's kind of a bozo. The pressure rate is 29%, which isn't great. Not that Arizona generates it a lot, but that's the point. It's kind of weakness on weakness. And then we also have strength on strength. Arizona's offense is electric. 14th. Fafita has been a revelation for this team. His efficiency is somehow better than Delores. And then he doesn't have as many of the turnover-worthy plays. He doesn't turn the ball over as much, so the offense can actually string together, like competent drives. This O-line is number 1 in the country in pass blocking. Just barely above a 16% pressure rate. This offensive line has been excellent, and now they're facing the number 1 pass rush in the country in UCLA. So something has to give here. I mean, the UCLA pass rush is so good. I don't know. Like, this is a very difficult game for me to evaluate. I'm surprised that it came in this close in terms of line. We're talking within 3.
Yep.
But honestly, that's probably where it should be at this point. If you force me to pick a side, I think I would back UCLA with the recent success they've had with Garbers against that bad Arizona defense. But I don't know. We've also had a lot of noise in the Arizona box scores. Like, this team should have beat Mississippi State. They had more yards per play. Should have lost to Stanford. Stanford outgained them. And then they should have beat USC, but they also should have lost to Oregon State last week. So, I mean, probably the same record, just mix and match the wins and losses. This team has been all over the place.
Really hard team to, I think, short, a really hard team to back at times. Honestly, we're covering all the marquee games. I don't like this spot. I think I would back UCLA at 2.5, but not on my card right now. I'm not sure it's going to make it. So we can save some time with this one and we'll go to Bedlam. We'll go to a little Oklahoma State. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year, what would this spread be? I would say 17.5, maybe something like that, because Oklahoma State is atrocious. Somehow, some way, they have clawed back, and now they're a super offense. It's only a 6-point spread. Oklahoma just lost. What a fascinating game here. Where is your lean? 62-point total as well.
Yeah, man. Gundy's weird. I think
Yeah.
a couple times now in his career, I've been like, man, this team stinks because of Gundy's unconventional way of roster building, coaching hires. But whatever it is, he gets the most out of his players on the field. I don't know, man.
This running back is out of control.
Ollie Gordon is a pure wagon. He might be the premier wagon in the country.
Like 250 yards a game style.
And I think he's probably going to have success again here. There's some injuries on this defense for Oklahoma. Many of them in the secondary, though. Gentry Williams missed their last game. He's a starting corner. Danny Stutzman, this would be huge. He was in and out of the game last week. Got hurt, I believe, on the final play of the first half, something like that. It was a pass breakup. But they just said fingers crossed for him, which I don't feel good about that. Reggie Pearson, one of their defensive backs, got a targeting. On offense, this team didn't have Marcus Major last week. Andrew Anthony's out for the year. Tawi Walker got hurt at the end of the game. He was kind of the engine of their offense. So a couple injuries for Oklahoma that are noteworthy. Oklahoma State had a million injuries, just holy smokes. And at receiver, too. They're playing guys I didn't even know. Dazon Stribling's out for the year. Jaden Bray missed their last game. Blaine Green missed their last game. Talon Shetron missed their last game. Leon Johnson got hurt in the game. I didn't even think he had no catches coming into the year, and he just immediately went out there, played like 100% of snaps. They also lost Dalton Cooper, one of their tackles in game. Jason Brooks, one of their guards, didn't play. That was an unexpected absence. So, I mean, I'm not betting this game just based on sheer injuries until we get news. Like, who's playing for these teams? I would tentatively side with Oklahoma State if you force me, getting 6 points. I don't think Oklahoma's that good. They should have more losses than they actually have. They lose against Kansas. That was a rightful loss. They were outgained yards per play, but they were also outgained yards per play against Texas and UCF. This team should have 3 L's. So, I mean, I'm not really buying them as, a touchdown favorite over some of the better teams in this conference. And surprisingly, Oklahoma State's been that. But I think this is just going to be a full pass for me with all the injuries.
Yeah, weird game. I'm probably going to be right there with you. I will say, again, Ollie Gordon, he deserves to be mentioned twice. It's just crazy. Every week, it's just like 27 for 230, and then he has a handful of catches. He's going to be busy. And if you are in a state that has a little player prop action, I know his line will be sky high, but I honestly don't know if you can even short him at this point. And I want to mention, if you are in those states, if you are looking for that stuff, I always bring up the live odds screen just because I like the way it looks. And it's easy to show you guys the different spreads, but that's just one of the many pieces here at Odd Chopper. If you want to see the good stuff, I'll bring it up just because you're loyal betting you observers. You see the board here. It populates in real time. It shows you the value. It shows you the expected value. It shows you why. You could say, okay, what's going on here? Then you say, okay, interesting. We have the true odds at this. This book is here. That's value. Then you could say, okay, well, I only want to see NBA and I only play on 2 books. No problem. All customizable. It populates, and there you have it. Again, this is the type of stuff. If you've been looking for tools like this, there is no better time to check us out at Odd Chopper. Again, the link is below. Come in for a week. See what you think. If you want to stick around, it's a great time of the year with college basketball, college football, NBA, hockey, NFL. I mean, what is not going on right now? I guess baseball mercifully will be ending. But shout out to Odd Chopper. Come join us here. You will not regret it. A couple more games, then we'll get to some best bets. Where are we going? We're going to, Iowa State. Another team. The Big 12 is drunk. These teams that were supposed to be awful actually aren't bad. Kansas knocks off Oklahoma, and now they're dogs to Iowa State. That doesn't seem like reality, but that is the reality. Talk to me here.
I agree with you. Played Kansas State +3. Think really anything inside 0. I honestly probably just look at the money line. If you get some weird bad number, I think they're live here. I think it's a spot we can finally short Iowa State.
Thank
This
God.
team has thank God is right. Awful offense. We knew this coming in. That's where all the suspensions were for the gambling stuff. They had to randomly start Rocco Beck to start the year. That's not who they were anticipating having out there. And he's been okay. He's a game manager. 60% completion, 7.2 yards per attempt. Same amount of turnover-worthy plays, big-time throws, doesn't run. The offensive line's not good. 124th in pass blocking, 126th in run blocking, so they can't run the ball either. That's Kansas's weakness, defense, but this team is still about top 75 in every metric, and they're around the top 50 in everything except run D. 59th in total D, 55th pass rush, 51st in coverage. Those are pretty good metrics. I mean, this unit was around the top 100 last year, returned almost everybody, so pretty good year-over-year improvement for Kansas. They're going to get decimated by teams like Oklahoma, but I think they stand up to the bad offenses like Iowa State. Then on the other side, Kansas should score. Jason Bean, fine quarterback, no real drop-off efficiency-wise, elite mobility for him, playing behind an electric offensive line, top 20 in both pass blocking and run blocking. Devin Neal's an excellent back to be playing behind that offensive line. They're facing Iowa's 20th ranked defense, but I have a lot of questions here. They haven't exactly faced a murderer's row of opposing offenses. We're talking Northern Iowa, Ohio, Oklahoma State with the revolving door. They got destroyed by Oklahoma, gave up 50 points. They beat TCU where Chandler Morris got hurt in the game. And then the last two contests they played, Cincinnati and Baylor, the bottom feeders of the Big 12. So, man, I don't know how good this defense is. I think it's likely better than I expected coming into the year. But Kansas is the second best offense they've faced all season long behind Oklahoma. And we just saw Kansas and Oklahoma both put up a ton of points on each other. So I'm not buying this defense for Iowa State. I think the only real advantage here is home field, which needs to be noted, but this is a very strong Kansas team they're facing. I'm surprised this isn't a pick 'em. Anything +3, +2.5. I do like that money line as well.
Yeah, and you might be able to get 2.5s right now, but they're taking some pressure. You might get a 3 that pops up for Kansas. So I'm not in a rush to bet it because it's not going to cross 0, and any plus money on that money line I think is a completely fine bet. This is a toss-up game. Give me the value with the Jayhawks. I'm not betting Iowa State. I think we know that at this point in society. All right, this is a game I want to talk to you about because this team has killed me all year, and now I want to short them. And I'm talking about Arkansas. I really like the spot against Mississippi State. Not to make excuses, but I got what I wanted. I thought their defense would really cause problems, and they did. They just put up 3 points at home in Fayetteville. What is going on with them? Now they pick on Florida, who I'm pretty high on, inside a touchdown. I like the Gators here. Do you like anything in this game?
I like the Gators too. In your previous bet, you also got them facing backup quarterback, which was semi-unexpected. At that point, there was a little more positive rhetoric on Will Rogers. Since then, it looks like it's been worse. But yeah, where to start with Arkansas, man? I think Sam Pittman's probably gone after this year. At least he should be. He is just gross negligence to the program, really all season long. And it starts in the offseason where he didn't portal a single offensive line replacement to try to address the 3 starters he lost. I mean, that's just gross negligence. You're Arkansas. People want to come play for you. You're a storied program. Try at least in the portal a little bit. My goodness. KJ Jefferson's been getting killed. The offensive line is horrible outside the top 115 in pass blocking. Sacks are a real issue. KJ Jefferson's only averaging 1.8 yards per carry this year. That's because of sacks. The pressure rate's 32%. Downright horrible. Raheem Sanders allegedly has returned to practice. I mean, this guy was rehabbing away from the team. I don't think he's going to play here. Honestly, there's no point in Raheem Sanders coming back at all this year. We'll see if he's, got the heart for his teammates or not, but I wouldn't if I was him. And then another just horrific coaching decision. Dwight McGlothern, he's been hurt twice this year, once with a toe, once with a concussion. Last week, he suited up, and after the game, they said he's fully healthy, but he didn't play because he needs to earn his playing time back. This is the best defender your team has. Not even close. Best PFF grades, coverage grades. Dwight McGlothern at the cornerback position is your best defender. He doesn't need to earn anything. This is a situation where you're losing games because of your bad decision-making. This flat out cannot happen if you're Sam Pittman. They already had to fire Dan Enos, his good old buddy. They hired his offensive coordinator. That went swimmingly. Now he's making terrible decisions on defense. I don't know how you back Arkansas in any game. they're not even getting their best players on the field. So in addition to the weaknesses they have, which are coaching driven, failures to recruit and hit the portal, now the good players you do have, you're not even putting on the field. This team is a disaster. Florida is actually not that, which has been a surprise. Their portal additions, I did not think were going to be as impactful as they are, but Graham Mertz has quietly been a very good SEC signal caller. 75% completion, 8.2 yards per attempt, only 2 turnover-worthy plays all year. Just amazing play from Graham Mertz. Offensive line has been pretty good, and we talked about some of the absences they previously had, so I kind of think there's some meat left on the bone with this offensive line that's already 58th in pass blocking, 44th in run blocking. Arkansas doesn't do anything well. Their pass rush is probably their best unit, but again, also facing a strength from Florida. And then, man, this Florida defense has been pretty good. I've been really surprised with their edge rushing unit. I thought this was going to be an issue for this team, but man, they've gotten good play here. The only concern I have is they've also had some of these like stupid coaching staff blunders. Kingsley Iguakun, their center, has been out for a while, and they had to play Jake Slaughter. Fortunately for them, Jake Slaughter has been the best offensive lineman they had, but last week Iguakun came back and then they benched Slaughter, which is I just can't understand why you have a backup who ends up being your best offensive lineman. Why does he just immediately lose his job? Luckily for them, Iguakun got hurt again. So I think Slaughter probably starts this game, which would be beneficial for this team. But man, 2 coaching staffs that just are complete morons at times. But I mean, Pittman, this guy shouldn't even be coaching high school at this point. He can't figure out his talent.
Lucky for Arkansas, college basketball starts soon.
Their coach there can't figure it out either.
Different. They should have him come over, bring Musselman in. Disturbing.
At least
he recruits. They got dudes. Yeah, Florida or pass for me. It's not even Florida or pass. It's just Florida. Let me correct
I bet Florida too.
Yeah, so did I. All right, we got a couple more games, then we'll get to our best bets. This one shouldn't take too long. It's a gigantic spread. Cal is going into the Lions' den. It's up to 24 in some spots. There's not going to be any drama here. Is it a name your score situation? What are we doing?
I think so. I think it's really hard to bet. It's Oregon. They're going to face Washington likely in the Pac-12 title game, so you kind of need to talk about them. But, man, they do everything so well. This is like a top 5 offensive line in the country protecting Bo Nix. Bucky Irving is making his case to win Doak Walker. Troy Franklin's a stud. Their defense is really good. Cal's now going into the Lions' den. They're down their best defender, Jackson Sturman. He's not going to come back this year. I love Mendoza, gamer against USC, but this is just a very different opponent. I think if Cal wants to, they win this by like 35 points. Or excuse me, I think Oregon wins this by 35 points if they want to, not Cal. Excuse me.
No, I hear you. I'm with you. Oregon is a serious team. They got bigger things going on and worrying about covering 25 here, but they can if they want to. I want to just go completely again to another team that it was similar to Oregon in the sense that they lost their big midseason test. Then I was interested, not worried about them losing, but Penn State slept walk against Indiana. The game was like tied in the third quarter. Now they have to go to Maryland. Do they wake up here? It's a 10-point spread. Obviously, they can't be losing to teams like this or their season is over.
Yeah, luckily they got by Indiana, so it's still in front of them. They're going to play Michigan. So, I mean,
at home.
Yep, they could have this end up in a little like weird round robin situation where Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State all have a loss, which would be beneficial to them. I still don't think they would make it. They clearly have the worst offense of the 3. But, man, I kind of want to start with Maryland here because I think that's where the handicap begins. This team is bad, and it's gotten worse. At the beginning of the year, we were trying to short them just because their win total was 7.5. There was no upside there. But there's plenty of downside, and we've seen that come to fruition. 3 straight losses, the most recent 2 coming against Illinois and Northwestern. And, man, there's not a lot of noise here. Northwestern was the rightful victor in that game. This Maryland defense is horrible, and that was kind of the expectation. They only returned 4 starters on defense. They lost 2 starting corners that became NFL players in Deonte Banks and Ja'Cory Bennett. And now this unit has also been bad against the run where they ranked 89th. But, man, they just allowed Brendan Sullivan, backup Northwestern quarterback, to throw for 265, 11.5 yards per attempt, Luke Altmaier was at 7.4. Kyle McCord got him. That'll happen. And then before that, they faced, Michigan State and Indiana. Before that, Colandrea, backup for Virginia, got him for 263. Charlotte quarterbacks, they had to play 2 in that game because Jalen Jones got hurt. They threw for 9.5 yards per attempt. Man, like this defense is really bad. So when we look at the other side, I think even Drew Aller and Penn State should be able to have success, not just in the secondary and throwing the ball over top, but we should finally see Katron Allen and Nick Singleton get going. This offensive line is still pretty good, especially run blocking where they're top 30. That's the weakness on Maryland's defense, even with losing a couple NFL corners. They're 89th again in run D. And then I don't know how Maryland scores. This offense has been a bit of a disappointment this year. Tagovailoa, 64% completion, 7.4 yards per attempt. I mean, he nearly has the same amount of big-time throws and turnover-worthy plays, 14 to 10. There's negative regression coming for him there. He doesn't run the ball. Penn State's defense is electric. The only real concern I have is Chop Robinson, their elite edge rusher, didn't play last game, and they seemingly felt that against Indiana. But we don't know if he's going to play here. Otherwise, they're pretty strong everywhere. This is more a short on Maryland than anything else. Penn State's a strong team, especially on defense. I think if they can manufacture points in their run game, they should slaughter this Maryland team, which is up. I mean, they're worse than Rutgers this year.
You got a good number out there. DraftKings hung a stale 10 at -108. Other books have moved all the way to 11. Everyone else is at 10.5. So if you want Penn State, you can find 10 at -108. That's the spot to attack. Here, I don't think that'll stick around for long. Final game before we get to the recap, and we're going back to the SEC. We're going to Kentucky. We're going to Mississippi State. I don't know, just kind of middling teams. We've seen both these teams not really be able to take that step. Kentucky's a 4-point road favorite. What is the move here? 46-point total.
Yeah, I think Kentucky's pretty good. They've just been limited by their quarterback play. Leary's been the worst offensive player they have. Yeah, it's wild. And he's coming off his best game, even though they lost to Tennessee. It was a great performance from Leary overall. But I think this team is making some positive changes, which is, it's like the opposite of Arkansas. And I mean, some of these are hard to make in the beginning of the year when you're dealing with young players. Like at Arkansas, they're just playing like incumbents and having these dumb good old boys rules where, I mean, you have to earn your job back from injury. Whereas, like Kenneth Horsey, he was hurt for this team. He's now back, and they're replacing Dylan Ray with him. That's a replacement that needs to be made. On defense, Ty Bryant, one of their rotational safeties, in limited snaps has been so good for this team, and they've had a weak link there. Jordan Lovett's been terrible. So now we're seeing him finally starting to play more. This coaching staff is good at evaluating talent and getting better players onto the field. So on defense and the O-line especially, I think these changes are a breath of fresh air and will help a team that's already pretty good. And then, man, can Leary just please play like he did last week every single game? Because the efficiency is not good with him. 57% completion, 7.5 yards per attempt. He has awesome receivers. They're all 4 and 5 stars. He has a great running back in Ray Davis, an offensive line, which is good and I think improving with some of the changes they made. I tentatively think we can back them because Mississippi State is so bad. They don't rush the passer. They're 127th there. They're not great against the run. Their offense has been completely stagnant since they changed coaching staffs. They've had to use Mike Wright the last couple games. I'm not sure if Will Rogers returns. I don't really know if it matters. They're just two polar opposite quarterbacks. Wright can't throw, but he runs really well. Will Rogers throws really well, but he can't run, negative sacks. This team has been a major disappointment in almost every single key metric this year. Offensive line is not great. I mean, can't run the ball. Joe Marks missed their last game. He's their best running back, so that's in addition to Will Rogers. They're at home here, but I'm just selling Mississippi State every step of the way at this point, really. So I'll take Kentucky.
I can find you a 3.5 at -110 out there. It's ticked to 4 in some spots, but there is that out there. A little wildcat action. I can get down with that. I'm not going to bet Mississippi State. I haven't been impressed with them. Again, I shorted them against Arkansas, and we just ran into an Arkansas team that doesn't know what they're doing. All right. My favorite part of the show. Again, I do want to say, as always, we appreciate it whether you're listening podcasts, watching on YouTube. If you hit that like button, subscribe, share the show. Let people know we want to grow this community. We want you as part of the first 100,000 that we're going to get to. And again, real quick, Bet365 if you're in those states. $150 is waiting for you. New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, Iowa, Kentucky, and Colorado. Maybe you get that money courtesy of Bet365 by clicking that link below. And now you have the time to put it on the best bets because we're going right there right now. Favorite plays from this slate. Hit me with them.
I just looked out my window and realized it's snowing here.
Nice.
So
It's freezing here, but it's not snowing.
we need a win. So my top three. Number one is Miami. I think it's just the ultimate buy low, sell high spot after NC State beat Clemson. Go back and listen to all the quarterbacks that have decimated this NC State pass defense that Cade Klubnik couldn't figure out how to. Van Dyke, another week removed from the injury, should have an absolute field day over NC State. -4 is a gift. My second one is the under in Notre Dame Clemson. Speaking of Clemson, a team that can't score, facing an elite Notre Dame defense. Then on the other side, Notre Dame will happily play slow and run heavy. That works right into the strength of Clemson's defense. And they just lost their top pass catcher, Mitch Evans, to a torn ACL. My third is Kansas getting 3, getting 2.5 against Iowa State. I'm not in love with the quarterbacks Iowa State has faced this year. So I think there is a little bit of noise in their defensive metrics. And Kansas, in my opinion, is the second best offense they've faced all year, behind Dylan Gabriel in Oklahoma. So getting points as a sell high for Iowa State will back the Jayhawks.
I'm going to add one more to the list as I search for it, and it's just going to be I can't get away from shorting Arkansas right now. They're a mess. I like Florida. It's inside a touchdown. It's at home. I thought that they fought at least against Georgia. It didn't come up in their favor, of course, but this is a totally different situation. I think the Gators are going to get it done and cover that number. So you got a nice little 4-pack of the best bets from the marquee part of the slate. Again, another episode coming. If you have any questions, at Matt_Gajewski, at JazzRazDFS over on Twitter. We're there. We're available. Let us know what you want to see. And stay tuned for more content at Odd Chopper. Again, all the links below. Check them out in the description. They're for you. Let's have a good week, friend. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Fun bet. Look at Missouri and Georgia. But
Can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. It's going to be a huge game, and it's going to be a huge week.
Can't wait for that huge week. Again, thanks for everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Good luck. Enjoy. And of course, stay tuned for more content each and every day here at Odd Chopper.